All right, welcome to Believe in Clemson Football. I'm Will Vandervort. That's Alex Dodd. We appreciate you guys joining us. We are running a little behind this week. I don't know what you want to charge that to, Alex. Last week was on me. How do you want to say this week?
This was on me. It's on me.
Okay.
I'll take responsibility.
All right. Alex takes responsibility for this one. Nonetheless, we appreciate you guys being with us. We're a couple of days different than normally. We normally do the show on a Tuesday. But we had things that happen. Obviously, Clemson basketball played on Tuesday night. Alex had some things to do on Tuesday night. So we decided just to move it to Thursday. I couldn't do it last night because I had things I already scheduled to do. So, but we're here tonight. Again, apologize that we are not at our normal time and we're a little late than what we thought we'd be tonight, but we appreciate you joining us nonetheless. You got a pretty good show, I think, Alex. This is one of my favorite shows of the year because I get to talk about Clemson football and the Super Bowl. And these are two things that I know a lot about. I don't know much in this world, but I do know a lot about Clemson football, and I do know a lot about the Super Bowl. Just your thoughts this week in this kind of show and doing something a little different than we normally do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun time of year. I already bought my ribs and my stuff to make wings on Sunday, so that's what I'm gonna be doing Sunday afternoon, getting ready for the game. And it's also cool just to look at, especially in this era of Clemson football that we're in right now, how many Tigers have played in the Super Bowl, how many Tigers have won Super Bowls, and we're gonna have Tigers win the Super Bowl again this year because somebody's got to win the game. As much as probably me and Will wish that neither team would win the game, one of them's going to win. So, there's going to be Clemson players that win a Super Bowl ring again this year.
Yeah, I'm a little selfish. I hate that because I don't want Philadelphia to win because Philadelphia is they're from Pennsylvania and they're like, they're Philadelphia, and so but if you got to say the lesser of two evils, in my opinion, I'm gonna pick Philadelphia only because Kansas City, Alex, can tie a record with the Steelers, 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, and they will also set a record, being the first team ever to win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. So they would,
and Taylor Swift will win a second consecutive Super Bowl.
Yes, and that's all by itself sucks. But yeah, I mean that would make them the greatest dynasty of all time, replacing the Steelers dynasty, which winning 4 Super Bowls in 6 years is the greatest dynasty, not Tom Brady and Bill Belichick winning 6 Super Bowls in 20 years. That is not a dynasty, people. They had 2 little dynasties inside that, but their third Super Bowl, they have 10 years apart in Super Bowl titles? That's not a dynasty. Come on, that's not a dynasty. I got an argument with some people on that were trying to tell me I didn't know football, but it was like, oh, you don't know football. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, that is not a dynasty. A dynasty is 4 out of 6 years or 3 out of 4. Those are dynasties, which we saw San Francisco, you could somewhat say, they won 4 Super Bowls in 9 years. Maybe you can question that as a dynasty or not. I don't know. I don't care. All I know is the Steelers won 4 out of 6. That is the standard in the NFL when it comes to Super Bowl championships. And Kansas City can set a new standard because they would win 4 out of 6 and win 3 straight. And I don't want it to happen. I'm just being selfish. Plus, I don't like how they win all the time.
I also completely disagree that what Belichick and Brady did was definitely a dynasty. Just because you have a couple down years in there, that doesn't make it not a dynasty. When you win
couple down years, you're talking about 10 years.
Yeah,
you have a whole decade in there, Alex. You went from when they won their 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years in 2005. How old were you, Alex?
I would have been 6 years old when that happened.
They won their next Super Bowl when you were 16. Okay, that's not dynasty, dude. I'm sorry, that's not.
I mean, the Chicago Bulls a dynasty with Michael Jordan.
They won 6 titles in 9 years, so yes.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess that is a little less time.
So yeah, so and also the Steelers won 4 out of 6 Super Bowls with the same players. Pretty much the entire team was those 4 championships, right? And the only 2 people were part of the 6 Super Bowls of New England. that were part of all 6, and that was Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. That's not a dynasty. Just 2 good players, a good quarterback, great quarterback, and a great coach that worked together for 20 years. That's all that was. Come on. I mean, I give them credit because they won 6 Super Bowls. I give those 2 guys credit. I don't give nobody else credit. I mean, Mean Joe Green won as many Super Bowls as Terry Bradshaw did. They won 4 out of 6. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I get you. Well, did they have 2 dynasties in New England?
They had 2 3 out of 4 year dynasties. They did it twice, so I give them credit for doing that, but I mean, they won 3 out of 6 years.
You know what's better than one dynasty?
3 out of 4, then 3 out of 6.
One thing that is better than one dynasty is having 2. So
I didn't say that wasn't, but 3 out of 4 and 3 out of 6 is what they had, But the Steelers are the only team to win back-to-back Super Bowls twice. New England didn't do that. Tom Brady never did that. So, anyway, come on, Alex. You're a Steelers guy. You gotta own it.
That doesn't mean that I don't have to acknowledge other people's greatness.
I didn't say you didn't. I said I respect it what they did, and I acknowledge.
Living in denial, Will. Living in denial.
Hey, look, I respect everything Tom Brady did. You know that as much as anybody. But don't take away my Steelers as being the top dynasty. Recency bias. Anyway, before we get into
Melvin's on Will's side. Melvin's
Thank you, Melvin. I appreciate you, buddy.
We're not gonna put his comment up there, but he's definitely on Will's side.
Yeah. You're not gonna put it up there. Can I put it up there?
It's a family show, Melvin. It's a family show.
Anyway, but hey, Melvin, thanks for agreeing with me, buddy. We're going to talk Clemson football, though, as far as Clemson in the Super Bowl. And Clemson's got a rich history in the Super Bowl that dates all the way back to Super Bowl III. Bill Mathis was a running back for the New York Jets, actually caught the first pass, I believe, in that Super Bowl from Joe Namath. And of course, anybody who, if you don't know what's happened in Super Bowl III and why that's so famous, come on, guys. So you got to know what happened in that Super Bowl. But anyway, we're going to talk about all the great Super Bowl memories for Clemson involving it in there. But before we do that, Alex, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsors, and we'll start off with the Clemson Insider, the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics and recruiting. Go to ClemsonInsider.com. Jason right now is killing it. Jason Priester, who you know is also you see on these YouTube channels, is killing it with the recruiting right now. So go check out Jason's work. I'm doing what I can to give you football information with columns and stuff I don't agree with. I'm going, man, I could go another whole podcast just on some stuff about what people are saying about Dabo Swinney and the Clemson football program and all this stuff out there. One person called Clemson the underrated, the overrated team for next football season, even though they hadn't even started yet, but they're already calling Clemson overrated. It's just like, what's wrong with these people? I just don't get it, Alex. But you can go to Clemson Insider.
You don't even know who's going to be on rosters in the fall. I mean, there are going to be players that are going to leave a bunch of teams, including probably Clemson, in a few weeks. And they're talking about, this team's the most overrated. We don't even know what these teams are going to look like when fall starts.
It's so crazy, man. College football. But anyway, go over to the Clemson Insider. Check it out. We appreciate Robert allowing us to do the Believe in Clemson football podcast each and every week on his YouTube channel at Clemson Insider. You can also go to the Facebook page at Clemson Insider as well, and on X at Clemson Insider to check out all the coverage. Also want to talk about our other sponsor of our show, and that is Birdie Burst Golf. Birdie Burst's mission is to revolutionize golf by cruising through the country club gates with style and bringing the game we love back to the people, particularly the next generation, with an innovative approach to smoothing out the learning curve and their student swings as well. Birdie Burst helps teach the game to all golfers of all ages and skill levels with tailor-made instruction on an online platform. Birdie Burst Golf coach Steve Bradley is an award-winning communications professional. He's safe sport trained and a master's student at Kaiser University College of Golf, and he's working on his own game as well. So he's going to be helping his game while he's helping your game. Steven, I was with him last night. as he was working on his helping some students out and getting them trained and getting their swings better. He does a great job. You need to go check it out. Go to @BirdieBurstGolf on Instagram or on Facebook. You can email them as well at birdieburstgolf@gmail.com. Again, that's Birdie, BIRDIE, Burst, BURST, golf @gmail.com. Go check him out. Steve does a great job, and he's man. Alex, you've seen him play the game too, man. He hit some shots last night, Alex, at the driving range that, oh my gosh, they were bombs, dude, and perfectly placed too. He's just not hitting it, and it's going left or right. I mean, it's going right where he wants it to go, and he just nails it every time.
Well, hopefully he taught you a thing or two, because I thought I was a bad golfer. You might be the worst. You might be the
horrible.
worst.
I'm a horrible.
I got a friend that plays golf that I played golf with this summer that uses his driver everywhere but the green, and I think you might be worse than him. And that's really saying something.
He uses his driver everywhere but the green.
So I'm glad Steven's teaching you a thing or two so that you can
listen. If he's using his driver everywhere but the green, I'm better than him because I can use other clubs. Now, they don't always go where I want them to go, but I'm able to use them from time to time. So sorry that he's that bad. Maybe he needs to go to Birdie Burst.
He might need to.
Steven does it online.
If he wants to play in the golf outing this summer, he might need to do some Birdie Bursts to be able to play.
I hope so. Hey, guys, if you want to get in and talk about the Super Bowl and Clemson Super Bowl, send me out some comments. Let's talk about it. Tell me your favorite Super Bowl memory involving a Clemson player. Let's try to keep it as theme as possible. Okay, guys. So let's involving a Clemson player. Who's your favorite former Clemson player that played in the Super Bowl? What's your favorite moment involving a Clemson player that was in the Super Bowl? I'm going to give mine. I know Alex is going to give his. We all got our own thoughts on those. I'm a little obviously Steeler-centric on mine. I'm going to be honest with you. Benny Cunningham, of course, the former Seneca High School star, just right down the road from me. Former Clemson two-time All-American, obviously, at Clemson. And then which was the first two-time All-American in Clemson history, by the way. A lot of people don't know that. I love to get people on that trivia question. And then Benny Cunningham went on to win 2 Super Bowls with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Benny had a couple catches in that Super Bowl 14 win over the Rams, and also had a key block that allowed Franco Harris to go in and score the touchdown, Pittsburgh's first touchdown of that Super Bowl. So obviously Benny Cunningham stands out to me, Alex. Probably, though, and I'm sure a lot of people on here are going to say the same thing, and if you do, please comment and tell us. Probably going to say what I say, which is William Perry scoring the touchdown in Super Bowl 20 against the Patriots. That was pretty cool because Perry, won a national championship with Clemson as a freshman, true freshman, and then 4 years later, he's plowing into the end zone, scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl. And I know a lot of NFL historians don't like that Mike Ditka allowed William Perry to score a touchdown and not Walter Payton. And it did kind of ruffle Walt Payton's feathers a little bit too. And that he came out later after he retired and said that. But the Fridge got a touchdown, man. I mean, Clemson guy.
I mean, that one's hard to beat. I mean, one, because it's so unexpected. Especially given the stakes and obviously the fallout of what happened with Walter Payton not getting to score that touchdown. But that's kind of a hard moment in Clemson history in the Super Bowl to forget, because that's an iconic moment in NFL history. Mm-hmm. It's not just a Clemson moment; it's a moment that everybody knows about. So
the big defensive lineman scored a touchdown, the first one in Super Bowl history. Yeah, it's hard to beat. But I guess your generation, Alex, are going to say T. Higgins.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like, if you look at my lifetime and marquee Clemson performances in Super Bowls, it's hard not to say T. Higgins and what he did in that game against the Rams. 100 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. Really made that an exciting game. I mean, it was a good Super Bowl, 23-20. That's hard to beat score wise. And T went off, so it was cool to see that, to see him not only thrive on a national championship stage, a lot like you talk about William Perry, but then when he gets the NFL to thrive on the Super Bowl stage.
Yeah, it was a great moment. I put T. Higgins up there. Sammy Watkins, his performance in the Chiefs winning Super Bowl 54. Was that right? Yeah, 54.
Yep.
Yeah, which was their first Super Bowl 50 years. Sammy made the game-winning catch. He did, because he set up the game-winning touchdown. I wouldn't say game-winning catch, but he set up the game-winning touchdown with it. And I think he had 97 yards receiving on 5 catches in that game. And that's cool, because when you think about Tyreek Hill was on that team, but it was Sammy Watkins that stood out. He's the one who made the key plays during that game for Patrick Mahomes. And so, yeah, you give, Sammy is another one, I think, that you look at and say, that's a great moment in Clemson football history,
Yeah, and I think you'll probably see another one this weekend. So we'll get into that later in the show.
Will Shipley's going to score a touchdown?
I think it probably is going to be the guy that plays for the team that nobody wants to win that's going to have the historic game.
I'm glad you brought that up. First of all, we'll go ahead and let people know who's all in the Super Bowl.
So guys from Clemson that are playing in the Super Bowl for
first. Let's make sure we clarify playing. Guys that are going to play.
Right. Yeah, for the Chiefs, you got DeAndre Hopkins, and Justin Ross did play a little bit in this playoff, so he's gonna play some in this game too.
Is he gonna dress in this game, you think? So he'll dress.
He dressed a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago. So
he did.
I imagine he'll probably be dressed out again. That's not, I'm not a NFL.
I forgot about Justin Ross, because he didn't get called up until the championship game.
Yeah. So I mean, he had a couple catches in that conference championship. And then for the Eagles, you have on the team, you have KJ Henry, Will Shipley, and Jeremiah Trotter.
And Trotter might start. Still, there's depends on the health of the Eagles. He started in the NFC Championship game. He might start this game as well. So we'll see.
If Will Shipley has a moment in the Super Bowl, that means that the Eagles beat the snot out of the Chiefs, probably.
Which we'll get to. We'll get to in a moment. Before this podcast is over, we'll give our predictions. We want your predictions too. Tell us who you guys think is going to win the Super Bowl, either Chiefs, and why. And will a Clemson player play a big role in it? But I guess, like you said, KJ Henry, I don't think he's going to be dressed in this game, but he still is a part of the Eagles. He'll be on the sideline because they are allowed to travel. This is the only time that practice squad players are allowed to travel with the team. And so they'll be there, and he'll get paid for this game. He'll get a jersey. Tyler Grisham, he was part of Super Bowl 45 with the Steelers, and he's got his jersey and all. He didn't play in the game, but he was on the practice squad, and so he ended up getting got a ring and got his jersey, that Super Bowl jersey and all. That's pretty cool. He showed it to me. I was like, a Steelers jersey and it's in the Super Bowl. Now the only difference was it sucked. They lost, and he talked about that too. He said it'd probably be hanging more prominently if they won it. I think he's got it in his office. He said it would probably be in the living room if they won the Super Bowl.
Fair enough.
I told him that too. But he had a big catch during that season. He came in and played a little bit during the season that year and had a big catch against the Ravens. And so he did great in it. And so, he's one of those guys that played in a Super Bowl, or at least was part of a Super Bowl team. Clemson, a guy who's on those teams on that very same 2010 team with Tyler Grisham is Nick Eason, who's on the coaching staff with now. Nick, of course, played in Super Bowl 43 and 45. He won Super Bowl 43 with the Steelers. And Nick's done a great job, as the defensive tackles coach for Clemson. And so it's good to see. Nick's a good friend of mine. It's good to see him in Clemson wearing orange. He loves Clemson, but he loves the Steelers too. So got some great stories from Nick's time in Pittsburgh. There's some pretty funny stories. Mike Tomlin shared some on the podcast. If you haven't Ben Roethlisberger's podcast, you got to go check it out if you hadn't seen it. That was last year about Nick Eason. It's really funny. But yeah, so Alex, let's start off. Like I mentioned some of the Super Bowl history. I already mentioned Bill Mathis was one of them. We'll go Super Bowl winning players first. So Super Bowl champions, Bill Mathis with the New York Jets, Charlie Waters He won it in 1971 with the Dallas Cowboys. John McMacken won it with the Pittsburgh Steelers in Super Bowl IX in 1974. Then Charlie Waters came back again and won another Super Bowl in 1977. Benny Cunningham won them again in 78, 79. Dwight Clark, man, he had the catch that got the 49ers to the Super Bowl that started their dynasty. But Dwight Clark and Archie Reese and Jim Stuckey. Here's a trivia question I love to ask people, Alex. And people don't, a lot of Clemson fans should know this, but they don't. Dwight Clark caught the pass for the 49ers that gave them the lead. But who was the guy that sealed the win for him against the Dallas Cowboys to send them to Super Bowl 16?
I couldn't tell you.
He also started on that 49ers team. His name was Jim Stuckey, starting defensive tackle. Wow. A Clemson Tiger gave them the go-ahead touchdown, and then a Clemson Tiger recovered the fumble to secure their trip to the Super Bowl. How cool is that?
I think that's a tricky question, man. That's a Jeopardy question or something. You got the sealed the win, makes you think offensive player, but
right.
Defense.
The Cowboys were driving to go get a field goal to win the game, and they fumbled the ball, and Stuckey recovered the fumble, and he goes running off the field holding the fumble. That's pretty cool to me. Two Clemson players played a big role in the 49ers dynasty. Like, if that doesn't happen, let's say the Cowboys recover that fumble there, and they go on and kick the field goal and win the game, the 49ers dynasty never happens, maybe. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You got to win the first one to get the ball rolling.
That's right. You got to win that first one.
What happened?
Exactly. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I have to admit, till this year, I forgot all about that. And I was watching it on TV and saw it. I said, oh, my gosh, it was Jim Stuckey that recovered it. So, and Jim Stuckey probably didn't forget. He knows. He probably gets aggravated because everybody talks about Dwight Clark's catch. He's probably like, hey, what about me? I made a big play. So, but, that's the 49ers teams that had some great ones there. Jeff Bostic played for the Washington Redskins, won his first Super Bowl in 1982. Now, here's another trivia question. Which Clemson Tiger has won the most Super Bowl rings?
Oh, gosh. I couldn't tell you. I'm not big on Clemson Super Bowl trivia. That's you, man. I should be asking you these questions.
That's what I said. I said one of the two things I know I'm good at: Clemson history, right, and Super Bowl history. But Bostic is Jeff Bostic is the answer. He won 3 Super Bowls with the Redskins. Won Super Bowl 18. Excuse me, not Super Bowl 18. Super Bowl 17. Then he went on to win Super Bowl 21 with the Redskins, I believe, and then he won Super Bowl 26 with the Redskins. He was part of the Hogs. He's original Hog member, was part of the Hogs offensive line with Joe Theismann and John Riggins and those guys initially, and that's how their name got started. And one of the great offensive lines, maybe the greatest offensive line in the history of the professional football. So, and I would like to see the Hogs go into Hall of Fame, and he get in the Hall of Fame that way.
Yeah,
I think they should, that whole offensive line should go in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
I mean, they were so dominant, Alex, during those years. I mean, Washington can run the football at will on anybody they wanted to. I mean, that's how good they were. They were hogs, man. They just go up there and like they were going to go slop. They just knock the crap out of you. Their head to the trough. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, man, you gotta have all the pieces. That's the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. I saw earlier talk about needing a quarterback on a team to be good. To be good, you need a good quarterback. But to win a Super Bowl, you got to have all the pieces. It's like Mahomes doesn't win these Super Bowls without the offensive line he has, the coaching staff he has, the defense he's had, the different iterations of defense that they've had in his career. You can't be a great player, a great team without having all those pieces. Can you think of a Super Bowl champion that was an incomplete team, or a team that felt like they were missing a big piece but found a way to do it anyway?
An incomplete team that won the Super Bowl. Let's try to think. I mean, I know one that got there. I mean, the New England Patriots, the Super Bowl 20, is probably the biggest underdog ever to make it to a Super Bowl. They beat Dan Marino and the Dolphins in the AFC Championship game, and everybody's like, "How in the world did that happen?" You know, if I had to say one team that probably maybe that it was surprising they won, that they weren't the better team, because earlier in the year they played this team and they got just demolished, and then in the Super Bowl they demolished that team, would be the Oakland Raiders in Super Bowl 15, where they were 9-7. Just barely made it into the playoffs, and then came out of the wild card and went on to win. They were the first wild card team ever to win a Super Bowl, and they beat the snot out of the Eagles in the Super Bowl. And they had Jim Plunkett as their quarterback, who was, when he came out of Stanford, he just never lived up to the expectations in New England, and ended up getting cut and released. And then the Raiders picked him up, and he started just throwing the ball up to Cliff Branch and those guys. And, it was like, everybody just runs a go. That's all the Raiders ever did. And they had a great defense, of course. And, but they ended up winning Super Bowl 15. That's probably the team I would say was the most incomplete to win a Super Bowl. Now, I think they were better than that New England team that went to the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 20. But there was no way that New England team was going to beat the Bears. I mean, that was
that game was. That's also the craziest thing about William Perry getting that touchdown too, is you felt like they had plenty of opportunities to get Walter Payton a touchdown in the Super Bowl. And I mean, this is one of, if not the greatest running back in NFL history.
I would argue he is.
Yeah, I would argue that he is also. I know a lot of people disagree with that and want to say maybe Barry Sanders, or, God forbid there's a Cowboys fan that says Emmitt Smith.
Barry Sanders, no, Emmitt Smith will tell you he doesn't need to be in the same sentence with either one of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Because Barry Sanders is the most electrifying
has
player.
Said that. Emmitt Smith has said that Barry Sanders was the best running back in the NFL during his career.
Yes.
So he's said that.
Yeah. And Jim Brown, I would put an argument, even though he was Cleveland Brown, Jim Brown would have also be right up there with those two. I mean,
but the fact that
on those three.
William the Refrigerator Perry has a Super Bowl touchdown, and Walter Payton doesn't, and they were on the same team, that will never cease to amaze many people.
Yes. Yeah. It's it's a moment. I love it for William, because obviously he's a Clemson guy, and he got his nickname, the Refrigerator Perry, at Clemson. A lot of people don't know that. They think he got it with Chicago, but he did. He got it at Clemson. And William Devane, by the way, is the one who named him the Refrigerator, because he's like, he's taller than a refrigerator. And at that time, refrigerators aren't as tall as they are now. And so, like, he was taller than most refrigerators and definitely wider than most refrigerators. And so that's why William Devane called him that. Great nickname, one of the greatest nicknames in all of sport, in my opinion. I mean, I think of Super Bowl memories with Clemson. I'll tell you guys who had great performances, man. Charlie Waters was always active in the Super Bowls. He played in, I think Charlie Waters still holds the record for the most Super Bowls played in. He played in 5 Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys, won 2 of them, winning Super Bowl 6 and then Super Bowl 12 with the Cowboys, and played in all of them, and I think he started the last 3, which would have been against the Steelers twice and then against the Denver also. Charlie Waters, though, man, I got to say, even though he played for the hated Cowboys, he always was involved and, making plays and tackles in the Super Bowl. I don't think they kept the records like they do now with defensive stats and all back then. But Charlie Waters, man, he always seemed to be playing. And the thing I loved about Charlie Waters, Alex, a lot of people don't know this, he wore a tiger paw on the back of his Dallas Cowboys helmet.
Oh, no way.
Yes. He let people know where he was from anytime, which is
Do you know, here's a trivia question for you. Do you know who the 9 Clemson football players to win a national championship and a Super Bowl are?
Do I know who they are? Let's see.
Yep. Could you name the 9?
Let's see. So you got obviously William Perry.
Yep.
Andy Hedden.
Yep.
Terry Kennard.
Yep.
Dan Benish.
Yep.
Katie Dunn.
Yep.
Okay. And then
Four more.
Four more.
In the modern era. These other
These
four
four won the modern era.
Yep.
Oh man, they won a national championship
and a Super Bowl ring.
So man, this most so they got to play for.
So there were two last year that
Justin
joined
Ross.
this club. Yep.
Justin Ross.
Yep. And who's the other one? Practice squad guy.
Yeah, no. Was it Powell?
Yep, Cornell Powell.
All right, Cornell Powell. All right, so I got.
And then there's two others. One with the Chiefs and one with the Rams. I believe it's the Chiefs.
One was the Chiefs, one with the Rams. Oh, yeah. Dorian O'Daniel.
Yep.
All right. But he didn't play. He didn't play in the game though, did he?
No, he didn't play in the game.
He's just on the team.
He earned a ring. Yep.
Yes, and then
one more. Rams.
So that'd have been a couple years ago. Oh, offensive lineman.
Yep.
Oh, no. Don't let this escape your head. Come on.
I
can see his face right now. I can see his face. Yes, I can see his face. Like in my head, I can see his face. Jermaine Ankrum. Yeah, so hey, I did good though. I got 8 out of 9. And I had 9. I just couldn't spit it out. But yeah, by the way, Andy Head and Terry Kennard, Dan Benish, and William Perry all played in the Super Bowl. And won it. They're the only ones to actually play in the Super Bowl. I don't know if KD Dunn played with the Washington Redskins. He was on the team, but I don't know if he actually played. But he was a great tight end, by the way. Great guy too, funny to talk to. He was on the national championship team. Big guy. I mean, big. Just could run fast. He was ahead of his time too. He was a lot like Benny Cunningham, built just like him.
There are also 9 Clemson Tigers who have won multiple Super Bowl rings.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name those Clemson Tigers?
Yes. Well, I don't know. I'll see. Let's see.
Confident.
Yeah. So obviously Benny Cunningham.
Yep.
Obviously Charlie Waters.
Yep.
All right. Dwight Clark.
Yep.
You've
mentioned.
I want to say Jim Stuckey. Jim Stuckey.
Yep.
Jeff Bostic.
Yep.
So I'm at 5.
4 to go.
All right. Terrence Flagler.
Yep.
Also, oh no, played for the Broncos. Trevor Price.
Yep. And then 2 more. Recent.
2 more recent.
Yep.
2 more recent. That won multiple Super Bowls.
Yep.
Okay. Defensive back. A defensive back for the Chiefs.
Nope.
Oh, not him. Okay, not him. That's not.
You got the right team though. You already named these guys.
Okay, one's a Chief
category. They both were.
They both are Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. Cornell Powell and Justin Ross.
They got 2 Super Bowls?
Yeah, they got 2 Super Bowl rings with the Chiefs.
Oh my gosh!
They got their second last year. They were on both of those teams. Now Justin Ross is eligible to get a third,
and he would tie Bostic, which is that's why you got to put an asterisk by it, guys, because Justin Ross is not a major player where Jeff Bostic is.
Right.
You know, I wouldn't mind seeing Justin Ross get a Super Bowl ring again and get his third. But come on, Justin Ross and Jeff Bostic should not be the same category. They shouldn't. They shouldn't be. Steve Fuller, yes, Steve Fuller, Rob Ellen. Steve Fuller did win a Super Bowl with the Chicago Bears. That is correct. But he didn't win multiple Super Bowls. That's the only one he won. By the way, Steve Fuller, a lot of people don't remember. Jim McMahon got hurt, and Steve Fuller played started 6 games that year for the Bears.
Yep.
So a lot of people don't know that. So Steve Fuller played a huge role in the Bears winning the Super Bowl. So I love Super Bowl trivia questions, and people guys ask me questions, comments. Give us some out here. We'd love to get some of those from you guys and talk about the Clemson Tigers in the Super Bowl if we can.
let's get into the guys that are playing this year
Yeah.
in the big game. Will, who do you think is gonna, outside of the obvious? I feel like the obvious answer is Nuke Hopkins. But who do you think has a chance to have a really big game and play a pivotal role on Sunday?
Outside of Nuke Hopkins?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think Will Shipley, obviously, he showed how, he made 2 plays on special teams in the NFC Championship game that led to touchdowns,
Yeah.
and so Will Shipley, I think, is a guy just from a special team standpoint would probably can make some plays. Jeremiah Trotter, I just mentioned, possibly might start.
Yeah.
So, and he actually, I think, recovered a fumble against the Packers in a big game earlier this year. So, either one of those 2 guys, I would say outside of Nuke would probably, of the 3, Nuke is the most likely. And if anybody's going to step up and ball in the Super Bowl, it's going to be Nuke Hopkins.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I can see it now where he's like jumping over somebody to grab some touchdown, looking like Larry Fitzgerald out there, You know what I'm saying? Like just doing that kind of stuff. Now he's not going to break away and run away from people like Fitzgerald did to the Steelers that year. But I can see him making those catches in the goal line situations where they just throw it up to him, because I think the Eagles are going to, jump all over Travis Kelce. They're not letting Travis Kelce beat them.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you've seen that in these playoffs, that if you're going to lose to the Chiefs, that's not the way you want to do it. You don't want to lose to the Chiefs by letting him beat you.
And the Bills did a good job of it. He didn't really impact that game against the Bills. He really didn't. And so that's why that's what the Eagles got to do. Do whatever Philadelphia did and do it. Do whatever Buffalo did, maybe do it a little bit better. Because I think if you could take him out of the game and make Patrick Mahomes have to go to somebody else, I think if you're the Eagles and you lose and Nuke Hopkins catches 2 touchdowns, you live with it and say, at least it wasn't Travis Kelce that beat us.
Right. Yeah, and you can't just sit in zone and let him run those little freestyle routes across the middle. I mean, because if you let him do that, they're going to beat the tar out of you. That's just what they do. If they can hit that easy stuff. And the other thing about it, when you let him run those freestyle routes on zone coverage, he's going to score like a 40-yard touchdown. I mean, it's going to happen if you're letting him do that. So
absolutely. How fitting though would it be that if because they're going to, like if you look at Super Bowl 54, they took Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce out of the game. San Francisco did, and they made somebody else beat them. Well, Sammy Watkins was that somebody else.
Yeah,
and he stepped up and made it and helped them win the Super Bowl. Much as I would hate to see the Chiefs win, I would love it if Nuke was the guy that won the Super Bowl for him. Because Nuke has that potential where he could be the guy that wins it for you if you shut down Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and it's also just great to see Nuke get this opportunity. He's was so good for so many years on crappy teams or teams that were good but not good enough, and to see him get the opportunity to play on the biggest stage, a Clemson guy through and through, a guy that grew up in the shadow of the university in Central, to see him be able to play for a Super Bowl is pretty awesome. And now Daniel has its answer to Benny Cunningham, and
that's true. They would have their answer finally.
So the Daniel Lyons, the William Qualkenbushes of the world, they could have their answer to Benny Cunningham.
A helpless Daniel defender, William Qualkenbush. So Nuke, here's a story I love telling this story about Nuke. So, and I wrote a column. I don't know if you saw it. I wrote it a few weeks ago after he advanced the Super Bowl. Nuke, all right. The first, all I heard about it, this is going back to like 2007 or 6, somewhere in that range. And all I heard about in camp was this Nuke Hopkins kid. He's the nephew of Terry Smith. Terry Smith, great former Clemson wide receiver. And they say he has hands like Terry Smith, but he's better than Terry Smith. And oh my gosh, you got to see this guy. He's unreal. And so the first game, they're playing Woodmont, and I'm going to go cover it. And so I'm walking up there and leaning on the fence as I'm walking up to the stadium, old Singleton Field, is Tommy Bowden. Coach Bowden says, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm coming to cover the game." He says, "I didn't know you did that." You know how Coach Bowden is. And I said, "Yeah, I do high school too, help him out." And so he's like, "Well," I said, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Well, I'm here to watch Nuke." And I said, "You are?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, He's like, that guy could play quarterback too. He's like, he played quarterback when he was in middle school, and he was really good. And that's what I thought he'd be doing. But I said, what are they got playing? He's like, wide receiver and safety. I said, okay. I said, yeah, I've heard a lot about him in camp. I heard they think he's pretty darn good. And Tommy says, pretty. Tommy's like, he's really good. And he's like, we want him. And I said, well, that's pretty cool, coach. And he says, yeah. He says, you'll see something special with this kid tonight. And then Tommy tells me he didn't play freshman football at Daniel because he wanted to focus on basketball. So Nuke didn't play as a freshman, sat out a whole year, comes back as sophomore. Alex, first game, third play of the game, the Woodmont quarterback throws the ball deep, and like a pro already, he had already just totally fooled the quarterback. And that quarterback thought he was open. Nuke comes over there, grabs that, snatches it, goes up like a mile high into the air and snatches the ball, grabs it, and then starts doing his Nuke things that he does, that he did at Clemson and in the NFL in his prime days, and like makes everybody on the Woodmont team miss. And he goes 64 yards for a touchdown on his third play playing high school football. He ends up finishing that season with 13 interceptions, which up until last year, I think somebody tied it last year, is a state high school record in the state of South Carolina.
Wow.
He did it as a sophomore. He also had 15 touchdown receptions. I mean, just unbelievable, man. I looked at the guy next to him. He sat in the press box when he took the interception back. I looked at him and said, I think he's playing on Sundays. And Nuke proved me right. I kid you not, true story.
So if the Chiefs do win, would DeAndre Hopkins be the first Clemson basketball player to win a Super Bowl?
No. I guess so. I'm trying
that might be your trivia question going forward. Like in 15 years, that's going to be a damn good trivia question. So write that one down. Who was the last Clemson basketball player?
Timberay, if you are watching, could you give us that answer? That is, I'm calling out the Timberay.
He'd be the first Super Bowl winner in the Brad Brownell basketball family.
You know what?
Right?
He would also be the first. He's already the first Will Vandervort, former Clemson player, to be in the Super Bowl. I shouldn't say Clemson player, high school player.
That you covered to play in the Super Bowl.
Play in the Super Bowl. And so he could be the first high school player I covered to win a Super Bowl. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, I'll be pulling for Nuke individually to do well, obviously. But Nuke's got a great story with his mama and everything he went through as a kid and what his mama had to go through. Just that's a great touching story. And nobody loves their mom. If you say like, what young man loves his mom? I don't think anybody loves their mom as much as Nuke Hopkins, including me, including you. And I love my mama.
I love you, mama.
And I know you love your mama, but Nuke Hopkins, that relationship between him and his mom is dynamic, and it still is today. And they work well together. She runs all of his foundations and stuff like that. And they work so well together, and it's just awesome story, man. It just really is. It's hard. It's one of the best stories in the Super Bowl. It really is. Him and his mom.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard for anybody in Clemson Nation that knows Nuke's story, and people that saw Nuke play in high school and knew Nuke growing up, like a bunch of people in the area do. It's gonna be hard for anybody to pull against the Chiefs on Sunday, even though I'm still pulling against the Chiefs on Sunday.
Rob says Hopkins would make a good MVP. I do think Mahomes will get his fourth MVP. I think Hopkins would be great. And look, wide receivers have gotten MVPs of the Super Bowl before. Matter of fact, the Steelers 3 times have had it happen. So of the 6 Super Bowls, 3 have gone to wide receivers. Santonio Holmes, Hines Ward, and Lynn Swann have all won it. So yeah, I think Nuke can get it. If Nuke plays like Nuke, if Nuke just says, this is it, and I think Nuke will retire if this happens. I really do. He hadn't said that.
What else would he have to accomplish?
He has nothing else to accomplish. He's been one of the best wide receivers for over a decade in the NFL.
Yep.
At one point, you could say he probably was the best, right?
Yeah.
And he would have won a Super Bowl. And, why not go out? And he goes out as an MVP. I mean, if he gets plays like that and he gets that kind of love, I mean, dude, I would love that for Nuke, man. I would hate to see the Chiefs win, but I would love that for Nuke. That would be a fun story for me to write. It really would be. I would enjoy that. So Rob, I hope that happens from that standpoint, buddy. I really do, because I'm pulling for Nuke and obviously. But let's just say this, man. What if like Will Shipley gets out there and gets a touchdown? How cool would that be?
Yeah, I mean, if he followed up the conference championship performance that nobody expected with a touchdown in the Super Bowl, that'd be pretty sweet. And it's also good because he's wearing like a real football number now. They had him like wearing like number 74 or something. That's some weird number early in the season, and now he's wearing like a real football number. He's in the 28, so people can actually tell he's a running back. But that'd be a pretty incredible story too for him to go out there and do it. And this game's going to be fun Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. Just the more we talk about it, the more I'm getting excited about it. It's going to be cool to see Saquon playing for a Super Bowl. There's a lot of guys who haven't got the opportunity to play on this stage yet.
Yeah.
That have been, the best in the NFL, like Saquon, like Nuke. It's going to be cool to see those guys get their shot at a
Brown,
Super Bowl.
I believe, for the Eagles. Did he play on it 2 years ago? No, he wasn't on the Eagles 2 years ago, was he? Yeah.
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so either. I know Smith was when they were played 2 years ago, but I don't think Brown was. And that's the thing about this Super Bowl. I guess we can kind of transition to it. When you talk about this game, Alex, when I look at it, if you go down and you say, give me position by position, the best, who's the best, or who gets the check mark?
Yeah.
You give it to Philadelphia on every position except two.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, Philadelphia's better at every position except two. Quarterback, which is a huge one. But Patrick Mahomes obviously is better than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts can have his best game, and Patrick Mahomes is still better. Right. And then of course Travis Kelce at tight end. Even though
Dallas Goedert,
I agree,
South Dakota boy,
probably a better true tight end in the sense of what the tight end position does.
Right.
But Travis Kelce's a playmaker.
Yes.
And that's what I mean by that. Travis Kelce is a playmaker. He finds ways to make plays on this kind of stage. That's why he's so good. That's why he's got the girl. Let's just go ahead and say it. That's why he's got the girl, right? Because he makes those plays. If Travis Kelce was a nobody, you think she's probably notices him? Probably not. But it has to be Travis Kelce, right? It makes it easier, for him to get in there. You think if he was just Pat Fryermuth, he'd have a chance with with her? No, it's like she'd be like, who's Pat? She'd be like,
now
that guy.
The other thing that the Chiefs have an advantage on is coaching. And you have Andy Reid and Spagnuolo.
They got a big
plays for you on both sides. That's a little bit better than what the Eagles have.
That's way better.
So the Eagles might have the X's and O's, or might have the Jimmies and Joes.
This might go to show. This Super Bowl might go to show who's better, the X's and O's or the Jimmies and Joes.
Yeah, we're gonna figure it out. It's Sunday.
We're gonna figure it out, and because I agree with you, Andy Reid is one of the best coaches of all time.
He's probably. It's hard to argue that he is the best offensive mind to ever coach professional football. It's really hard to.
Well, I can argue it because of a guy named Bill Walsh. Andy Reid, pretty much everything Andy Reid has done is through that guy. So, because he comes off of that tree, Bill Walsh tree. So, but your point's valid. I mean, like I would say Paul Brown is a better coach than Chuck Noll, but Chuck Noll won more championships, but he was a Paul Brown disciple. And so, so I give Paul Brown the edge there. But I like that comparison though, Alex. I like that argument, and I think you're correct. I think it's hard. Let's see.
Reid 21-4 off a bye. That's hard to beat.
That's better than Dabo Sweeney. Sorry, Coach. That was a stab. I shouldn't have done that. But Dabo's lost the last 2 years. Actually, Dabo's pretty good off a bye, to be honest with you. So I'm just picking. Dabo's really good off a bye.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got out. Anything else up there?
No, I don't. A good one from John Grant. Hopefully, nobody hits Mahomes too hard. Refs are watching. That's another distinct advantage that the Chiefs have. They have the NFL officiating crew almost certainly giving them the benefit of the doubt at every turn. But also, I think this gets overplayed a lot because generally, not always, but generally, when you're the best team, you tend to get a few breaks. You tend to get the benefit of the doubt.
You do, but they seem to get all the breaks. There's a difference in getting some of the breaks than all of the breaks. I mean, they literally get every break. Every break. And you can go back to 2 years ago when they played Cincinnati. The whole, the infamous let's give them another down play, that led to them going up and scoring the winning points in that game. It's just the thing I like best about this past week with the media, though, is somebody stood up and asked the commissioner about it and brought it out in the open. Yep. So now it's like, okay, NFL, your officials need to be on their A game, because now that somebody's put it out there that the commissioner had to talk about it, makes it a little different. Well,
and the guy asked Travis Kelce and Mahomes who their favorite ref was, or if they sent refs Christmas cards. But this is what happens when you have a media day that's really a fan day. So,
right.
It's hard for me to be like, oh, I can't believe they did that when the NFL turned it into a circus a few years ago.
And the college football playoff is, we saw that toward the Clemson's last national championship game, that they're turning it into the same kind of ruckus, where they're just letting these people that have no business getting credentials onto the field, into the media day stuff, and they're like asking these stupid questions. We're sitting there trying to get serious questions asked, and all these people come over here asking, like, if you could marry one person, who would it be? I'm like, I'm just looking at it. I mean, that happened. That happened to me.
Yeah.
Huh?
Who's your favorite celebrity?
Yeah. Who's your favorite celebrity? Or what's your favorite song?
What's your McDonald's order? It's like stuff like that.
If you had to go to a Chick-fil-A drive-thru, what would you order? I mean, that's the kind of stuff they'd ask, and you're sitting there like. But in all seriousness, those questions happen. That first one I said happened to me. Like, I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me? Did you just ask him that? I'm like, oh my gosh, it's dumbfounding. And so it was already kind of getting that way. I can only imagine what it's like now. And I've already said that I never want to cover a Super Bowl personally. I never want to cover a Super Bowl. It seems like it's a horrible experience for the media, and it ain't worth it. And, I don't want to cover it. I'll do the week before Super Bowl, cover it up then, and I'll be like, you know what? I'll watch it from home.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if you had the opportunity to do it, you probably still would do it, though. Just knowing you, it'd be hard for you to turn down being at the Super Bowl, Will.
I wouldn't cover Steelers Super Bowl, though. Nope.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't be able to contain yourself.
I can't contain myself. Look,
Steelers game.
One of the hardest things I ever did. No. One of the hardest things I ever did was when I was down in Jacksonville and I was helping the Florida Times Union, and I was writing a sidebar. It was their first Monday night game ever in Jacksonville, and I was covering the Pittsburgh locker room. And dude, that was the hardest I ever had to keep my mouth shut in the press box. And I mean, because I was, me, Alex, you watched the Steelers game with me. It's very hard for me.
I've been to a Steelers game with you.
You've been to the Steelers game with me. It's very hard for me to hold my emotions in check with the Steelers, but I did. And I remember when that's the game where Bill Cowher like almost tackled the guy from the sideline. Like the Steelers are going to win the game. They're setting up. They kicking the winning field goal to win the game, and the Jaguars blocked it. And the guy picked it up and took it to the house. And as he's going past Bill says, like that, right? Like he was almost going to go tackle him. I covered that game. And so, which is pretty cool. I remember, I'll never forget it. I told the time I met Coach Cowher, talked to him, I told him about that. I said, that was my first Monday night game, Coach, covered a Monday night game. And you almost tackled the guy, so that was a fun experience. But yeah, just covering national championships was great. because it's still about, we get to do our job and nobody's getting in our way and stuff.
Right.
And I guess you get to do that in the NFL when they have the round the tables, when they do the rest of the media during the rest of the week, know. But that
they just
first
have the
night,
one circus day or whatever.
that first night.
And now it's just all these Instagram influencers and social media personalities, and I don't know. It's just, it is what it is. That sounds super elitist for me to say that, but
Alex, we are elitist in that way, and there's nothing wrong with it. We learned our craft the way you're supposed to. We just didn't go stick ourselves in front of a camera.
I don't have a problem.
Hello.
I don't have a problem with other people getting access that aren't traditional media. I don't have a problem with that at all. As so long as everybody's allowed to do their job. It's like if we have a utilitarian approach where everybody's able to do their job, then it doesn't bother me. I mean, this happens in college football playoff events. I've seen reporters that cover other teams act like fans and scream and cheer and yell at the press box. And not going to say who those people are, but I've seen it happen. So it happens at every level.
I know what team that might have been.
I'm not gonna. I've heard.
You got your 15 minutes of fame for that one.
Yeah, I did get a mention on a very big podcast the next day.
It did. It got a big mention. There is a big, Rob, I agree. There is a big difference in journalists and entertainers. And that's fine as long as
we try to be entertaining journalists. So that's what we
right. But when we're doing our job, we're doing our job.
When we're doing our job, we're doing our job.
Yeah, we're trying to find the story and get that information out to you guys. And then some people are just getting in our way. I don't care if people come in there and they're, they do their thing and they're not getting in my way. But when you get in my way and I can't get my job done because you're asking ridiculous question after ridiculous question after ridiculous question, and I'm just like, oh, move out of my way, people. And that's what you got in that national championship. A couple of times, we were there. It's just like, I just was like, what are y'all doing? Especially the San Francisco one.
Yes,
that was the craziest one, man. The questions that were asked on that darn Super Bowl, championship, were crazy. The questions being asked of the players, and I know some of the players commented to me, like, "Are they really asking us this stuff? Like, can they ask? They ask, can they ask us this stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah."
I'm like, I guess so. I don't know.
Just like, So it's like, they were even kind of taken about it. So anyway, all right, Alex, we're getting close here. We got a few minutes left. Super Bowl 59. I wanted it to be the Steelers there, obviously, because it's the 50th anniversary of the Steelers' first Super Bowl title. That didn't happen. A sad day.
For obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons, it didn't happen because they didn't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
But
they're not going to have one next year, but that's beside the point.
That's true, especially if it's Justin Fields. They're not going to have a quarterback. But anyway, we won't go into that. All right, here's what I think is going to happen. Then I'm going to ask you what you think. All right. I think Philadelphia is the better team. Philadelphia can run the football. Philadelphia, they have better playmakers at wide receiver. Philadelphia has the better defense. And if Philadelphia doesn't outthink itself and they play, listen, the Chiefs in the playoffs are giving up 166 yards a game rushing. So if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you got the best doggone running back in the NFL, you run him and you run him and you run him until those guys on the other side can't breathe. Because by you running him, just like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did in Super Bowl 55, where they ran all over the Chiefs and beat them 31-9, you keep Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes off the field.
Yep.
And that's what you got to do if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't be stupid. Don't try to go do some trick play or do something. No. They can line up and physically beat the Chiefs, I think. I think they can line up and run the football on them. So I am predicting Philadelphia 31, Chiefs 10. I just don't. Philadelphia
31 to 10.
The Chiefs don't have playmakers on offense. All they got is Kelsey. They got Kelsey, and they got a couple beat up running backs. They got a good offensive line. Obviously, got the best quarterback in the game.
Yep.
But their wide receivers are Juju Smith-Schuster, I love him because he's a former Steeler. But Juju's your best guy. Come on, man. Come on.
So these are my thoughts.
And Philadelphia's defense, by the way, is number one in the NFL.
Yeah. These are my thoughts much of the same of what you said. Philadelphia's got to run the dang football until Saquon Barkley's legs fall off.
Exactly.
And
This is
they
the
got to
Super Bowl,
control.
man. Give
Yep,
that guy 35 carries.
you got to dominate the box. You got to control the line of scrimmage. That's what you do if you're Philadelphia. If you're the Chiefs, you got to try to scheme around stuff and use your brain trust. I mean, if Spags is throwing looks that you've never seen before on the defensive side, and Andy Reid's putting guys in positions you've never seen before on the offensive side, they got a chance to win this football game. But for much of the same reason that you said, for Philadelphia's ability to run the football and play defense, I have the Eagles winning 27-23.
So you got the Eagles winning 27-23. Rob wants to know where my sports book is with the Chiefs plus 21.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find that one. If that one exists, I'm going to go put like a couple $1,000 on the Chiefs to cover. If somebody put the Chiefs.
Think about it this way: the Buccaneers had the number one, like either they were top 5 defense that year. I want to say they were number 1. They had one of the best run games in the NFL that year. And, of course, they had Tom Brady too. But Tom Brady wasn't needed in that game.
Right.
Because they just ran the ball down their throats. And, by the way, that Chiefs offense, they were loaded at wide receiver. They had Tyreek Hill, and they had Travis Kelce, and they had their running back. They had all their playmakers in that game.
I could really easily see this being like the Broncos-Panthers Super Bowl, where you've got this team that like kind of fluky found some way to win some games they probably should have lost, and they had a bunch of momentum and they made it to the game, but then they get exposed in the game for all those things that
they played the better team.
Season.
They played the team with the better defense and a good run game, and generally the team with the best defense and the best rushing offense, which Philadelphia is number 1 in the NFL in both of those categories. That team wins the Super Bowl.
And how crazy would it be for Nick Sirianni to go from like about getting fired mid-season last year and yelling at his own fans to win in the Super Bowl potentially on Sunday? And it's very possible. Will and I both think it's going to happen. We'll see what happens.
And not that we are hoping that it happens. I really believe it's going to happen. I think the Eagles are the better team. Yeah, the Chiefs got the better coaches. I agree on that. But I just think it does come down to the horses. And Philadelphia's offensive line is just the best offensive line since the Washington Redskins I talked about earlier with the Hogs. They're probably the best offensive line since that offensive line as a collective group.
Yeah.
And that's even with Kelce retiring, right? And him a couple years ago and him not there anymore. They're even better when he was there. But they're just that. I mean, they had their backup center, and they dominated that championship game with their backup center. That's how good they are on the offensive line. I mean, that to me, they're the best. I think you could run the football and you can stop the run. You're generally going to win almost every Super Bowl if you're that team. And I think the Eagles are that team, and I think that'll show on Sunday. I do. I really do. And good for Saquon Barkley because he's a great guy, man. I am a Saquon Barkley fan because of what he does. When it came out and Will Shipley talked about him, and then what he did during the game, you saw it with your own eyes.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy, man, I root for. That kind of guy I root for, even though he plays for Philadelphia. But I like that guy.
Well,
really
and another thing to like about Saquon, too, is, he had a chance to make NFL history this year. And instead of doing that, he chose to do what was best for his team. And to sit out that week. He could have said, hey, I'm playing, I'm getting this record for me. But he didn't care about that. He wanted to do what was best for his team, and he rested. And now they're in the Super Bowl. And it could very well be the difference in whether or not they win this game on Sunday, whether or not he played in that Week 18.
Well, remember, go back to the Ravens game, 6 or 7 weeks earlier that really got them on this roll. He had like 200 yards or whatever it was against the Ravens. It wasn't 200 yards, but it was a lot. Had a couple touchdowns. They're up by a couple scores late in the game. His guy comes up to him and says, hey, if you do this, you get over 200 yards or whatever, some record or something. He says, do you want to come back in and get it? He said, no, man. He says, the other guys need to eat.
Yeah.
He's like, go. They need that experience. Go let them play. That wasn't a regular season game.
Yeah.
he could have gotten more yards and beat the record by just doing that in that game, right? Because he was running the ball all over him. But that tells me who he is, where he's like, no, the other guys need to eat too.
Yeah.
Let them eat, And I'm like, I like that guy. That's a guy I can pull for. And he's about his teammates. He's not about just himself, even in this day and age when everybody is about themselves. It was refreshing. And to see it with Will Shipley, just the way he celebrated, and that just made it better because it's a Clemson guy. Made Will Shipley famous. He got a Good Morning America the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what in the world? That was not on my football bingo card this year, was Will Shipley being on Good Morning America after the NFC Championship. That was not on my football bingo card in 2025.
No, and we'll get out of here with this. Will Shipley is Saquon Barkley, that same person. And that's probably why they get along so good, because Will's that exact same person. And then how great was it to see when Ship comes over, who gives him the hug? It's KJ Henry, his boy, his best friend. How awesome is that? That, those two guys get to celebrate, and hopefully they'll get to celebrate Super Bowls. You're talking about a great memory. Alex, think about that with your best friends from college. You get, you're working with them and you get to celebrate this great moment with them. How often is that,
Yeah.
Outside of getting married or something like that. That would be like the ultimate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fun to see it on Sunday. Like I said, I got the ribs ready. Well, they're not ready yet. I'm not letting them sit there.
There going to be some.
They're in the fridge.
Some stanky ribs that they're ready now.
I got the ribs. I got my stuff for wings. Mm-hmm. I'm ready to go, baby. This is my wife Rachel. She's like, let's go to the zoo on Sunday. I'm like, no, we're not going to the zoo. We're watching football.
She did not. She did not say let's go to the zoo.
But she did. She forgot. In her defense, she forgot the Super Bowl was on Sunday. Like
Rachel.
The week off always throws people off of when Super Bowl is. So with the week off, she forgot that the Super Bowl was this week. And then last night she's like, "Oh, we can't go to the zoo. We got the Super Bowl." So
you're like, yeah. You're like, yeah. I love it.
It's going to be a little cold for the zoo on Sunday in Denver too. So
the way you say the zoo reminds me of the kid on Jerry Maguire. We go to the zoo. Anyway, with that, we'll go ahead and get on out of here. I got to eat. I know Alex does too. So, guys, we appreciate you joining us on the Believe in Clemson Football podcast. For Alex Dodd, I'm Will Vandervort. Appreciate all you guys. We'll talk to you next time on Believe in Clemson Football.